Greetings adventurers, this is Cause of the Warmforged here with another Baldur's Gate 3 guide. Today though, we're going to be covering 5 of what I think are the most slept on weapons of Act 1. These are items that potentially you might have missed out on just because you didn't buy them from a vendor or didn't look too much into their effects and abilities, but they actually turn out to be some of the most powerful items you can get, some of these of which will trivialize fights based upon their effects or their passives, and a lot of which I think you're going to find very useful. So let's get straight into the video, and we're going to show you guys again the top 5 items that are most slept on in Act 1. Alright, so the first weapon we're going to cover is the Doomhammer. This is a maul that has the ability Edge of Terror, which is going to inflict the Bone Shield condition from the weapon, as if you were to cast a Bone Shield spell. This is on hit, this is without a save. It's extremely busted because it prevents healing, and if the target's undead, then they have disadvantage on attack rolls. So where the anti-healing is very powerful is gonna be this Lava Elemental fight, where normally the Lava Elemental, if it stands in lava, it gets a bajillion healing. We're basically able to ignore that, and we can just smack the shit out of this dude. And then our Sorcerer, who normally would have has to cast Bone Chill to prevent the healing, now can cast Ray of Frost to deal even more damage. The anti-healing aspect is pretty niche. It is also super useful in the Hostile of Merkel fight. That boss can get healing back from killing its own minions, so that's super annoying. It's also undead, so you get the other benefit of Bone Chill. And then of course, yes, being able to inflict disadvantage on attack rolls to undead is extremely useful in Act 2. If we take a look at the list of enemies in Baldur's Gate 3, the amount of enemies that are undead is an incredibly high amount, because in Act 2 there are just so many freaking undeads. There's the Shadows, all of the Thorn bosses are going to be undeads. Then there's the Necromites, which you're going to have to fight from the spawns. There's Balthazar, there's the Justiciars. There's so many undead enemies that you're actually going to get pretty substantial value out of this weapon following through from Act 1 into Act 2. And I highly recommend you guys check it out and try it. Alright, so to obtain this item, you have to go over to the Goblin Camp and speak to Gratz, the trader, who is going to sell the Doomhammer. As you can see right here, very cheap for an uncommon item, and very powerful. So next up we have is Jorgoral's Greatsword. This is a +1 Greatsword that is going to make you feel like Guts from Berserk, because it has the Colossal Onslaught weapon action that allows us to slam down in a 20-foot line, make an attack roll against everything in that line, and if we hit, we deal full damage, which does include Great Weapon Master, and a little bit of extra slashing damage equal to our PP. So the biggest weakness of martial characters is when you get surrounded and you're overwhelmed by enemies, you simply can't attack all of them. But with this weapon, once per short rest, we get this massive ultimate attack that is going to be freaking badass as hell to have. Alright, so to obtain Jorgoral's Greatsword, you are going to need to buy it from a Dweger vendor that is located over here. However, you can see there's no one here for me right now. It's supposed to be right here. Do keep in mind, if you fight Corsair Greymon after boarding the boat, going from the Underdark beach, have the option to shove him into the water. If you do that, you will permanently make his inventory inaccessible, and you will lose access to the weapon. So do not shove him into the water, no matter how tempting it is, if you want this weapon, this greatsword, because he will not spawn anymore at his usual location. And even worse, you straight up can't have access to his inventory, can't even loot his body as if you kill him. So make sure to leave him alive, and you'll be able to buy the greatsword or get. So next up is the weapon called the Loviatar Scourge. Whereas the first 2 weapons we showcase, it's very easy to miss if you didn't shop at the vendors. This one I think is more so overlooked because of its downside. It's a one-handed mace, it gives you necrotic resistance, but it also does 1d6 necrotic damage and an AoE on hit, and that includes you as well. So you're gonna chip yourself with this weapon, and you can chip yourself for quite a bit of damage if you're attacking a lot. Now, AoE damage, of course, is incredibly useful for martials, and we can actually mitigate most of the downside of this weapon by wearing armors like the Adamantine Scale Mail and the Adamantine Splint armor that are going to give us flat damage mitigation. This actually applies after damage resistance, which means that if we roll a 6, on the damage, we are going to take 6 points of damage, which is then halved to 3 points of damage. And then if we have the adamantine scale mail, for example, it's only going to be 2 points of damage that we do to ourselves. So by using these armors, we are able to mitigate how much damage we're going to be inflicting on ourselves with this weapon by quite a lot, and we can start using it for our one-handed builds, whether you're dual wielding or just using sword and board. It's a very powerful weapon. All right, to get the Loviatar Scourge, you are going to want to get it from Abdirak. He is one of the worshippers of Loviatar in the Shattered Sanctum. You can get it from his body. Very easy item to obtain when you're clearing out the camp. All right, so next up is an item called the Staff of Arcane Blessing. This is a staff that allows you to cast a spell Bless from it, and if you do so, then you're going to get the benefits of Bless, which is a plus 1d4 to attack rolls and saves, but you're also going to get Mistra's Blessing, which is an additional plus 1d4 to your attack rolls. So a lot of people undervalue this weapon because, quite frankly, there's a lot of better staffs, right? And you want to take a staff that's going to increase your damage. Although increasing accuracy is great, to have to concentrate on Bless and to only be able to cast Bless on 3 people, it's not nearly as good as some of the other staffs you can get, especially in Act 2. What people don't realize is that the Mistra's Blessing is an entirely separate buff. So you can see here, I have cast Toad Person, I broke concentration on Bless, but I still have Mistra's Blessing. In this second clip, I still have Mistra's Blessing despite not concentrating on the effect anymore, effectively meaning you can prep this spell before a fight, and even if you spend your concentration on something else other than Bless, it's still very useful. Now to get this item, we gotta go to the Arcane Tower. We can very easily Misty Step to the bottom over here and then get inside of the basement floor, which is where we're gonna find the staff. It's gonna be resting on the desk over here. All right, so we saved the best for last, and the last weapon on this list is so sleeper OP that from the second you get it in the Githyanki Crash toward the end of Act 1 and all the way up until the end of Act 3, it is very relevant for damage, for tons of different types of builds. It is the Knife of the Undermountain King, and it certainly makes us feel like a king because of its unique ability called Organ Rearranger. It's actually not unique. You get this ability from another item, but it's a legendary item you don't get until Act 3. Now, Organ Rearranger allows us to reduce the number we need to roll a critical hit while attacking by 1. It increases our crit range. It stacks with other effects that increase crit range. And also, when we roll a 2 or less on a damage dice, we get to reroll and take the higher result. So it actually increases our damage by allowing us to reroll damage dice on top of already increasing our crit range. And this is a passive that works as long as you have the weapon equipped. So if it's in your offhand, doesn't matter what you have in your main hand, you still get the bonus of this. Even if you're using ranged attacks, you still get the bonus of this. So it's so incredibly powerful for both melee and ranged builds. This weapon pairs best with the Shadow Blade, and it even has the Shadow Blade passive where you get advantage on attack rolls when attacking lightly or heavily obscured objects while using this blade. It's a +2 short sword that gets free advantage, increased crit range, and it allows damage to be rerolled. Like, this cannot get any better. When you pair this with Shadow Blade, which is arguably the best weapon in the entire game, if you upcast Shadow Blade to 5th level, it does 4d8 plus your dex mod damage, and if you crit, then you're doubling that, and if you have the Resonant Stone, you're doubling that, so you're just dealing out insane amounts of psychic damage, killing everything so easily. This weapon makes the game easy mode. I mean, the footage speaks for itself. You'll see me obliterate some of those goblin camp fights, which on honor mode, and these are on honor mode, can be quite difficult. But we are able to just output stupid amounts of damage because Organ Rearranger really helps us to crit and then deal more reliable damage as a result of rerolling our die. So yeah, this is going to be the most powerful weapon you can get out of Act 1. You have to make sure that you get this from the Creche before you blow it up on accident or, you know, leave Act 1 and don't have a chance to come back. It's so valuable, and it really does help you to have fun by dealing tons of damage. So that's going to be pretty much it for the list. those are several of the items that I think are often slept on, or maybe ignored or forgotten about. They don't get enough of the spotlight. Maybe this weapon does. I mean, I've showcased it in my videos, and I didn't even realize that it was passively giving me the bonus to the critical hit. I thought that was only applying to the weapon itself, but it's a passive that applies to your character in general, so it's absolutely busted. Please do take advantage of this, and I hope you guys found the video helpful. Let me know in the comments if I missed anything. If you think there's any sleeper items out of Act 1 that should be on this list, please feel free to let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video, guys. I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.